Hello, welcome on in everybody. Today I've got for you the very first featured build for New World, and this is brought to us by none other than DragooX. If you watch some of my ESO content from before, you definitely recognize this guy. And today he is sharing with us his heavy armor, spear, and rapier build. This build is a fantastic brawler that can put out a lot of pressure with tons of AoE stuns and bleeds. On top of it, the rapier gives this build good mobility while also giving it good counters to a lot of different attacks through riposte and evade. The spear is the primary damage dealer for the build, but the rapier still hits hard and has some good backstab finish potential. In short, this is a well-rounded full melee build that can excel at all different forms of PvP. A massive thank you and shout out to DragooX for sending in this build to be featured. If you guys want to see a more comprehensive breakdown of the build and of course more gameplay and content from Dragoo, you can find a link to his channel down below in the description. Now without further ado, let's take a quick peek at that build and then we'll jump right into the gameplay commentary. And before we get started, there is of course a written guide on my website, pvpnewworld.com, if you guys want to check that out. Starting off with the attributes, Dragoo has focused on strength and dexterity, primarily into dexterity, to maximize the spear's damage, with 200 points in constitution for that durability, especially in heavy armor, providing more physical resistance. The additional light and heavy attack damage from putting 100 points in strength will go really far with the spear's damage on this build, and in general, it's a nice spread for damage and durability. For the spear mastery, Dragoo has gone with the skills Sweep, Perforate, and the Vault Kick. Perforate only taking the second passive here instead of the last one, and a big focus on upping the outgoing damage and stamina sustained with the spear on this build. Also focusing on debuff duration and bleed duration on the opponent to take full advantage of that last impaler passive to up the outgoing damage. The rapier tree being very heavy in the grace section, evade, riposte, and flesh being the choice skills for the rapier pretty much on any PvP build. And then of course putting in those offensive passives to get access to momentum to increase the outgoing damage that the rapier can do. Taking a look at the weapon loadout, the spear is keen, vicious, and keenly empowered with the Gambit gem, perfect for a burst damage spear build, and of course the Gambit gem is going to increase the outgoing damage of the spear quite a lot because the spear benefits a lot from actively dodging while you're using your spear skills. And then the rapier has Rogue to give it that increased backstab damage, especially nice for the rapier because you can get behind people really easily with a riposte or a flesh combo. It's got omnidirectional evade to give you a little bit more consistent damage on it. And finally, the Keenly Jagged perk to give a bleed to the rapier when you crit with it. This is actually very important for this build because when you swap back over to the spear bar, the bleed duration can be increased when you land crits with your spear, and on top of it, having that bleed on your opponent will allow you to deal more damage with your spear bar as well. Taking a look at the armor perks, Dragoo has a huge favorite with Resilient and the Refreshing and Refreshing Evasion perks. These are fantastic for PvP. Resilient, an absolute must-have for PvP, and then Refreshing, great for both your offensive and defensive play thanks to the reduced cooldown. Dragoo also has every single skill modifier for each of the 6 skills that he uses on this build. But the really important ones here are going to be Bleeding Sweep to give you an additional bleed, Keen Vault Kick to up your critical chance rate on the build, and of course Sundering Riposte to boost your outgoing damage against anyone that you've hit with a riposte. And finally, physical or elemental aversion perks are always a great option for a PvP build. And then for the jewelry, Health, Divine, Slash Protection on the amulet, pretty much best in slot. Slash Protection could be replaced by something like Purify or even Stamina Recovery. The ring has Keen Awareness, which is super important for the crit rate of the build, and then Refreshing and Leeching to give you a little bit more healing as you attack. And then the earring, of course, coming with Regenerating, Refreshing Toast, and Refreshing. Pretty much a best in slot earring for any PvP build. And finally, for the jewelry and armor gems, Dragoo has slotted a mix of gems to give him a balanced physical and elemental defense value. Alright, so let's jump right into that PvP commentary. Dragoo's got quite a few fights for you guys here, so starting off with the first one, you can see he's got quite a few greenies chasing him in the open field here. Dragoo goes for a few dodges to try to break a bit of distance, and Dragoo pulls out the rapier, goes for the flesh, and just manages to do a little bit of kiting, but a little bit of a fast forward, and Dragoo finds himself having to engage with these guys. He's not going to be able to just escape for players like that. Gets a fantastic kick combo on that player there, hits him with the Perforate, and then a beautiful flesh just to break the distance towards him and finish him off with the backstab poke. And then Dragoo just in the middle of the pack here, using his dodge to break more distance towards the other player at the back. He connects with the Vault Kick lunge and then goes for the Perforate, getting good damage into into that player, but unfortunately getting body blocked by the two other heavier armor players there. And then Dragoo just goes for a little bit of direction change as the melee players chase him. They continue to just kind of hack at the back of him, but Dragoo just keeps rolling forward and keeping up pressure on the enemy healer. A huge combo with the perforate, and that guy goes down. And a beautiful riposte there just to quickly turn the counter stun on those players. Dragoo tries to go for the kick there. I believe he landed that stun, trying to finish off the player on the ground there, but neither of these two are keen, I think, on picking up the res. So Dragoo's got time just to move around and seal the deal on this kill. And there you see he goes for the sweep, stunning both players. And then another player coming in from the back here, launching some Fire Staff projectiles. Dragoo catching this Sword and Shield player very low. A beautiful counter riposte on the incoming Hammer player's stun there. And then Dragoo switches to the Spear, goes for the Perforate to try to put the pressure in to finish that Sword and Board player off. Hits him with the sweep as he comes back around. Goes for the vault kick to drop his block. The enemy player's just out of range. And then the tracking on Spear, allowing Dragoo to stay on top of that player. A quick flesh behind him into the backstab. And then a beautiful counter riposte on the other player to quickly down him as well. And now Dragoo's left just against this enemy Fire Staff Rapier player. He catches him with a strong riposte there. Hits him with the sweep into the vault kick. And just like that, the Rapier player's health drops. And then Dragoo finishes him off with a couple more pokes. Now, moving on to the next fight, Dragoo finds himself in the middle of an Angry Earth area, and there's a few green players here. Dragoo jumps on the first player, hits him with a nasty perforate, and there's a beautiful flesh into the backstab, and just like that, he brings the first green player down. Now, there is a little bit of a skip there, and Dragoo pushes outside to confront the rest of the green. It looks like 4 players outside the doorway here, and he's just kind of doing a little bit of fencing at the doorway. The enemy ice shower comes down. Dragoo gets caught in it, but he tries to commit to the counter stun, getting caught again by another stun, but then hits with the sweep, tries to go for the vault kick. Unfortunately, it was a little bit of a position desync. He did land the vault kick, so the enemy player was stunned by it, so Dragoo just kind of had to walk backwards a little bit, hit him with a few pokes to bring him down, and the flesh to finish off that player. And then a little bit more of a skip again here as Dragoo's just doing a little bit of defensive kiting. Would have loved to see it for the build video, but that's okay. Dragoo eventually finds himself at the bottom here where these weirdwood trees spawn, and he catches one player by himself, hits him with a sweep, goes for the perforate right away. Huge damage into that guy, and Dragoo just finishes him off with a couple pokes from the spear and then downs him with the rapier. And Dragoo works his way inside towards where the boss spawns here, and it looks like there's 5 more green players doing the boss. Dragoo's just on the outside here, using the spear stunts to fence these guys, keeping them on the ground so they can't attack him as well. There you see a great connection with the sweep. The enemy player just managing to get the potion in time, but Dragoo connects with the vault kick. Pulling out though with the rapier there as he's taking a bit of pressure, just quickly healing up with his potion, catches a riposte on this player, following it up with this sweep. The combination of riposte into the spear stuns is so deadly if you get caught by that riposte on this build. And there you see the tracking on the spear, allowing Dragoo to easily stay on top of that player as he tries to escape, and he finishes that guy off. Honestly, one of the best changes to Spear in the last patch was the increased tracking that it has. And there you see a beautiful flesh from Dragoo to stay on top of the enemy player that's low HP there. Now he transitions to the player in the back that looks like he's got a life staff out, healing everybody. Huge crits from the backstabs there. Dragoo very quickly taking that player down. And then he just right away moves to the next target with the life staff here, applying pressure with his perforate, and he catches him with the sweep and the stab, trying to continue to apply pressure there, but the tracking on the light attack actually targeting the other green player, so Dragoo just has to reset the combo as the healer was able to heal back up, and he just keeps on the pressure with the spear. The trick to taking down a healer is to keep up that pressure. They only have so many heals that they can use on cooldown, and there you see eventually Dragoo with a big connection at the end, and then moving on to the last player there with the sweep into a few more pokes to finish off the whole group. And moving on to the last clip of the video, Dragoo's hanging out on some mountainside here, and he's got 3 enemy players that he engages with. Right away, they throw a ton of CC down on him. Dragoo switches to the rapier, goes for the riposte, a beautiful evade just through everybody to break a bit of distance there, and then he just keeps moving on back, just getting the heals from his potions and his regen. and I think Dragoo's just looking for a good position or opportunity to engage. There you see a flesh right back through the two players in front, and then Dragoo right away focusing on the player in the back with the healing staff. The enemy player pulls out his hammer though, hits Dragoo with the stun. There's another beautiful riposte, taking advantage of the CC immunity after the riposte to stick out that combo with the spear as well, and big damage on that player. Dragoo takes the first one down, catching another riposte on the enemy hammer player into the spear stun, and then the kick on the enemy healer. And Dragoo, I think, just keeping constant pressure on this enemy healer here. I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of this fight as I say goodbye. Again, a massive thank you and shout out to Dragoo for sending in this build. Be sure to check out this man's fine New World content. There's a link to his channel down below for you guys. Of course, I have a written guide for this build at pvpnewworld.com, and there's a link down below to that for you guys. If you want to catch some live gameplay from me, you can always give me a follow on Twitch, and give me a follow on Twitter if you guys want to keep up to date with what's going on with me. If you want to send in your own clips for the top 5 New World fights, or if you want to send in your own build to be featured on the channel, you can send that to Kristofer at pvpnewworld.com. This show is sponsored by What the Fast. They are a VPN for gamers that can help give you better ping to your favorite games, especially if you have a poor ping to start with. There's a link down below in the description for you guys, and it is free to try for the first 30 days. And then last but not least, a massive thank you and shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. Without your help, I wouldn't be able to do this, so thank you, thank you. Thank you everybody just for tuning in and watching. As always, I hope that you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you again, and have a great night, everybody.